not fake, never been fraud. Been great, still a little flawed. Always need sign when they call. Order up a drink while I'm sitting at the bar. Like, I need a strong tail, Nico make two. Honey Jack with a little bit of juice. CYA throwing up the dose. I'm all in. I try to get to get some peace, that's all I need. I try to get to get some peace, that's all I need.
What's up, everybody? It's your girl T.
Everybody know it's Pretty Timmy, baby.
And we're with Eventures. And tonight on D&D, Drinks and Deliberation, in case you all don't know what it is. But usually once a month, we get together with some of our members, if they're able to attend, and have some discussions about, sometimes it's some funny stuff, sometimes it's some serious stuff, sometimes it's some conspiracy stuff. Sometimes it's just things that make you laugh. And then also sometimes we play games. Well, tonight, our topic for tonight is mental health and whether it should be protected or should it be built and built up to basically be able to sustain through what you need to go through in life. So we will have one or two clips from a therapist that speaks on mental health. And we actually have two of our members with us tonight. Our first member, I'm going to bring to the stage, Miss Stacy Dew stepped away from the screen. Miss Stacy Dew, one of our members. How you doing, Stacy? How's it going this evening?
I am doing great. It's so nice.
You look great. Your hair cute.
Thank you.
All
I'm
right.
going to be on my phone because the hubby has an emergency.
Okay.
So I'm going to switch to my phone. And then
Gotcha.
About 10 minutes.
Okay, not a problem.
I'll be on my phone. Okay.
All right, not a problem. All right. And now we have Halea, who is an offspring of Ty and Timmy. She is also one of our members, and she's usually one that's usually hiding in the bushes. Just so you all know, she normally is in the comments most of the time. But this topic today is actually right in alignment with her major in college, which is psychology, cognitive behavior, and all of those great fancy terms that they use for the different ways of mental health. So I figured this would be a great topic to include her in. I'm pretty sure she will have she'll be able to contribute to our topic this evening. And of course, our topic will be in response to one or two clips in reference to what this topic is about. But just to get us jumped off until Stacy returns, when it comes to mental health, just a quick answer. And Timmy, I'll start with you. Mm-hmm. Do you think when it comes to your mental health that it should be protected, meaning you should avoid anything that complicates your mind? Or do you think it should be built up like a muscle to help you be able to endure certain things?
No. There's no such thing as trying to build it up, because everybody has a chink in their armor. You just don't know what it is. Even in the storybooks, Greek mythology, when they was talking about Achilles, that old story about Achilles' heel, that was brought him down. He was indestructible. He best fighter, best swordsman. I mean, he was doing everything right, but it was that one little thing, that Achilles' heel that he had, that once it got pierced, it destroyed him. He turned into trash. He just went out. So to me, mental health should be protected. Everybody should have a limit. Everybody should have a timeout card in my book. You know what I'm saying? If you don't feel like being behind, take this card. This card right here lets you know, hey, I'm to the limit. I need a break. I need some me time. Walk away from the job and everything. So that's on my take of it.
Okay. And I'm gonna keep in mind what you said, because that's to me. And you know what? Let me leave that, and I'll get back to it, because I don't want to jump ahead. So now I'm going to turn it over to Halea. And Halea, what are your thoughts about? Do you think mental health should be protected, or should it be built to sustain things that you need to endure?
To be honest, I feel like when it comes to like receiving treatment for like certain like mental illnesses and health and mental health issues, you kind of get a mixture of both. Like you should be aware of your limits and like what you can endure when it comes to your mental state. However, there is also a way for you to build upon it to where certain things might not be as might not affect you as much anymore, like in the long run. Like for example, I used to be like absolutely horrified of like medical needles, like syringes and stuff like that, because of like a situation I had, like, you know, when I was 3 at the dentist, you were there. But ever since then, I was like absolutely terrified of needles, like didn't want them anywhere near me. But when it came to when I was going through like my cancer treatment and stuff, and they always had to put that syringe in me, I kind of, as much as I hated it and I cried in the beginning, eventually I kind of just sucked it up, because I was just like, dang, they're gonna have to get the blood one way or another. Like it's just, so as much as I wanted to avoid stuff like that, over time, like me, and it's basically exposure therapy is what it's called, like getting constant exposure to something. Like it eventually you will build like a tolerance for it, and it won't affect you like as much.
Okay. All right. I know, Stacy, I know you said your husband had an issue. I know you're on the phone. Are you able to answer the question?
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. Ask the question again.
So the question is, when it comes to mental health, do you believe that mental health should be protected, or do you think that it should be built up like a muscle so you can endure certain things in life?
I guess the way I was raised, and I'm a Gen Xer, so we were taught to just endure. But I'm learning though that we need to protect mental health. And I've
Okay.
encouraged my little ones to make sure that they protect their mental health and get help where help is needed.
Okay. All right. So I believe in the same thing. I think that mental health I think you should build up, I think that your experiences in life, um, you should go through your experiences, and that to me help you to build some form of okay, what do I do in this situation? You know what I mean? Like if it's a situation I need to deal with, then I understand how to deal with it next time. So then maybe it doesn't bother me. Or, then there are times when it's like, you know what, I'm a little overwhelmed right now. Let me retreat and I'll be back, pretty much. But I don't think that mental health should be avoided, meaning I don't think experiences should be avoided in the term to protect your mental health, which is what some individuals are actually using mental health today as. And that is what our topic today is. And I will play the clip after I welcome our guests in the chat. And it's basically about a therapist speaking about individuals who, some people are using mental health as an scapegoat, using it as, hey, it's my mental health, to sort of get out of things, versus, no, this is something that you're going to need to address at some point in your life. So you need to go ahead, whether you need some time to do it or you need to take it in little pieces. But mental health is not to be used as an avoidance, in other words. So let me welcome those in the chat, and then I'll go ahead and play the clip and we can discuss some of the statements and opinions that she stated in her notes. So here in the house, we got House of X. What's up, Wanston Leo? How y'all doing? House of X is a member of our channel. He is also they are also panel members. They are out helping the community. They have a back to school fundraiser. If you all are not aware of that, which most of you, any of you if you've been in my lives or in their lives, I'm pretty sure you have heard about it. And I will show you all I'll take you to their page where you can see the link for you to donate for back to school. You can either donate through funds, or you can actually donate by clicking on a link and making purchases through the vendor, and I believe it's Target that they're using this year again, or Amazon. I think it's Amazon this year. To go through there, and you can just choose whichever, pencil cases and backpacks and so forth. They need a lot of backpacks. So please, if you are able to, please go on and purchase those backpacks and help out a child who is less fortunate. Okay. We got Big Murph in the house. Hey, Big Murph, how you doing? Nice to meet you. Nice to see you in here. I saw your short video earlier. I see Mr. Comedian Shula was trying to push up on one of y'all friends. It was like, sorry, Mr. Shula, she is taken. Okay, I like it. I was cracking up when I actually looked at that vlog. We have Miss Amelia in the house. Hello, Amelia. How are you doing? Peace and blessings to you as well. We got Sledge Inc. team. How you doing, Sledge? How's it going? Honey, he's one of the other, he's about the credit cards and all those things. So you're just telling my husband because he's been talking about getting some information on certain credit cards, like for businesses and so forth. Yes. So you happen to pop up right on time. So I let him know who you are. Let's see here. We have Let's see. We have Mickey Adventures in the house. Hey, Mickey, how are you? Thank you for being here, and thank you for being a member. Mickey is also a member. Happy Saturday to you. And let me see here. So Amelia says mental health absolutely should be built up like a muscle to stand up against the storms, obstacles, and challenges of life. I agree with that. I totally agree with that. We got Moni to the T in the house. Hey, Moni, how are you? Thank you. She said hello to everybody and great topic. I figured this was a topic that, folks need to talk about because some people just abuse stuff. Like when we're just trying to make awareness and trying to get people to, everybody goes to the doctor for every other part of their body, but no one goes to the doctor for their brain, right? So upon trying to encourage that and bring awareness, of course, as always, you get people who want to abuse the term, right? And just make it a thing. But today we're going to talk about how that should not be what it should be. Hey, Rod, how you doing? Welcome in. How's it going? All right, let's see here. All right, I think we are down to the bottom of the chat, so we can go ahead and get into our first video, our first clip. Hold on one second. Here we go.
Maybe it's just me, but I thought that the goal was to create awareness, to, normalize seeking help, to make therapy accessible, to remove the shame around mental health struggles. But somewhere along the way, destigmatizing mental health has taken on a life of its own. And now, instead of people getting better, I just feel like people are getting worse. We didn't just normalize therapy. We've turned it into a personality trait. We didn't just encourage self-awareness. We turned every feeling into a diagnosis. And instead of using mental health language as a tool, we've started using it as a shield, justifying avoidance, self-sabotage, and emotional fragility in the name of protection. Now everything is a trigger. Everything is trauma. People say, I can't do this. It's bad for my mental health. When what they really mean is, this is hard and I don't want to deal with it. But when did mental health become about avoiding life instead of learning how to handle it? Good mental health isn't about comfort. It's about capacity. It's about having the emotional, the psychological, and the cognitive range to handle life as it comes. Not just when it's easy, but especially when it's hard. Your mental health should be challenged, because if your mental health can't withstand stress, discomfort, or uncertainty, then you don't have mental strength. You have emotional dependence based on the right circumstances. And life does not care about your circumstances. And I'm serious, y'all. Like, really, ask yourself, has your mental health journey actually made you stronger, or has it made you retreat further into protecting yourself in the name of good mental health?
All right. So I actually listened to her, and that is primarily, she does a lot of talks and so forth in reference to this. And so I just want to now turn it over to you all and Timmy, we'll start with you again. We'll keep the same order. What are your thoughts about what she stated?
Well, I agree with some of it. Some of it I don't necessarily agree with. And I'm going to explain myself. To me, it's 2025. There's a lot of things that's going on out here in the world now that people cannot change. You have to adapt to. You have to adapt to the new environment of that, hey, that there is no such thing as, we getting rid of the diversity in the job and the workplace. We changing a lot of things. Change bring on stress. Stress bring on mental health. So we have to be able to find a comfort zone when you're being attacked, because we are being attacked now in society as of today, of 2025. Me, myself, I had to adjust to a situation of going from teleworking from home to now I have to be in an office building every day. The building was in the process of being condemned, mold, mildew, tiles missing from the ceiling and everything. And our higher up are comfortable putting us in those positions that we had to work with. And we have people in there with health issues like myself, suffer from migraine headaches. And that's a stressful situation. But the higher ups, they seem like they just look around it, like they don't know until, we got in touch with the right people. Now they're saying, oh, nobody said anything. That's a lie. We've been talking about it since we've been back. But higher ups can protect themselves. But look at what it put everybody else through. People stressed out, can't come to work. Me and my situation, for some reason I wasn't sleeping. Every morning I was get up at 3:45. I would wake up before my alarm goes off. That's mental health. That's your mind. My mind would not let me sleep past it was time for me to get up and go to work. And some days I'll get up early, but that right there is a whole lot of stress. But I learned one thing that I realized: you got to take care of yourself. You got to protect yourself. You all you got. You got to live your best life. You all you got. Regardless of the job, family situations, things out there with friends, co-workers, you can't save nobody else if you cannot save yourself.
That's right. Agreed. Alea, what are your thoughts about the clip?
I feel like the reasoning as to why things took a turn in terms of like destigmatizing like mental health and whatnot is that although we brought awareness to like, hey, these are potential issues, no one really knows like in depth of like what the issues are. So everything is like kind of surface level, like understanding. So I can give a good example, and I feel like I don't want to bring like my generation into this, but like there are some people on the internet to where it's like some people are bringing awareness to like autism basically and how, hey, these are certain symptoms that like a person who with autism may have. But then you got some people on the internet, they'll see these videos and thinking, oh, wait, I do those things too. Like, am I autistic? Like maybe I have autism. And it's just like, that's not always the case. Like that's not always the case. And although it's just like, a lot like getting diagnosed for like certain things can be on the more expensive side, like ADHD, autism testing, like that's expensive. And a lot of insurance doesn't want to cover stuff like that. But self-diagnosing can be a problem with that when it comes to a lack of information, and people don't like go out their way to do more research on those topics. So they just take like a certain symptom of something and they're just being like, oh, well, I have that. And it's just like, well, not necessarily. There are like a larger list of symptoms of things. And like, although you don't need to have every single symptom of an illness to be considered to have that illness, it's still like you gotta be very careful in terms of like saying like, oh, I have this issue, or like, oh, it just makes me like, oh, I get depressed when I do this, and then really I actually you're just very avoidant of it, and that's fine. But again, that's just a lack of information where it's like you're using incorrect terms for something to represent how you actually feel, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's where the issue of destigmatizing mental health like comes in, is just a lack of information that's shared. Like we got the information out there where, you know, promoting it, that's great. But then people just take everything at surface value and then just take off with it. And it's just like, wait, hold on. Like we got a lot more to here. But yeah, I think that's basically it for me.
Okay. All right. So you touched more on a diagnosis piece. I like that. Stacy?
I agree with you, young lady, because my daughter's friends, and she's 20. So most of her friends are about 20, 21, 22. And it's this epidemic now of these kids just saying, well, I'm bipolar or I'm autistic. And I'm asking, when I talk to them, I ask them, where are you getting this information from? They can't tell me, no doctor has told them that they've been diagnosed with this thing. But I think it's the information age. We have all this information out there. And I guess to justify your behavior, people are just saying, well, this is why I'm this way and this is why it is. And the internet is just justifying different behaviors, right? Mm-hmm. And it's a cop-out. Is that fair to say it's a cop-out then?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, rather than work on the issues that you really do have, or just, what's the other thing that we said from the last question we had? Just endure.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have a reason for everybody to just accept your bad behavior. Is that fair?
Right.
And I think that's what's going on today. I think there's legitimate mental health issues. And I think we need to spend more time with identifying when somebody really needs intervention, then when they're having a mental health issue, rather than just going on the internet and it's telling you these gurus, we don't know if they're licensed to tell you something really wrong with you. They're just having these catchphrases, and everybody's just jumping on these catchphrases to get out of really dealing with what the issue is at home or in yourself.
Yeah, and it's also impacting these companies, who have these employees who are now, there were staff that would go, oh, I went to my therapist and I have a doctor's note and I need to be out for 30 days because they said that, I'm just, it's very stressful and I'm going through some stuff, so I need 30 days off. And it's like, you need 30 days off because of, because of what? Like, is it you just need time and right now life just has a lot coming at you, or you just don't want to be at work because what you have to do at work is requiring you to actually work? Which one is it, right? And so because of these things, you have the companies like what TJ touched on. Now they got these policies and certain things like, oh, you can't say this, you can't say this to someone, and you can't use this term, and you can't, because, oh, it may, trigger somebody. And this isn't just mental health, that's also in reference to race or a lot of other things. But with people using it as an avoidance or an excuse, it's making it bad for those who really do have, mental health issues and really do have a reason on why they're behaving a certain way and so forth. Now, I do want to touch on the part of avoidance, right? Now, all of us in life, there may be things where, like, you know what? I just don't want to deal with you, or I don't want to deal with this issue. So I'm just going to say, if I'm around you, I'm sorry, I can't be because you trigger this when I'm around you. Okay. Why does it trigger you? Because to me, I feel that is work that you have to do on yourself, right? And if the person does trigger you, no one's saying that you should be forced to be around someone who's abusive. or, you know, a circumstance where you're being actually put in harm, whether it's physical, sexual, mental, whatever, because there are ways of abusing people in those ways. But then you just have individuals who are just like, I just don't feel comfortable when I'm around this person, so I just don't want to be there. Well, if you're in life, it's fine. There may be things like at home. At home, you can avoid as much as you want because your home is supposed to be your safe haven. You should be able to retreat to your home and not have to deal with any triggers, anything, anyone that you don't want to, because it's home. But when you step out that door, your mind, you are going to have to build up your mental capacity to be able to deal with rude people, people who irritate you, people who stress you out, things that stress you out, especially if you have to do those things that stress you out. You have to build up some form of capacity, which is what the therapist stated. You have to build up that stamina. It's no different than, hey, I can't carry this. Well, if it's something that you have to carry, then eventually you're going to have to condition your body to be able to carry those things, whether that means lift some weights, whether that means do some push-ups, whatever it is. But if it's something that you have to do and you're going to come across in life, because once you leave out your house, no one else cares about how you feel or, you know, how comfortable or uncomfortable you are, because everyone outside is trying to take care of what they need to take care of, you know. And so avoiding things is just going to create people from, you know, well, I'm not going to work there. Okay, well, that's fine. You don't have to work there. But I don't believe people need to be making accommodations for you at the job just because
Right.
you know, oh, you can't deal with this person, so now you're moving people to multiple different departments just because of this one person that says they can't deal with this person. Well, maybe you just need a different job. How about that? Maybe you need a different job, and the job doesn't need to be the one trying to accommodate what makes you uncomfortable at the workforce, because you don't have to work there. I'm going to play her other clip, and this is actually our last clip from her. Here she just dives in just a little bit more about it.
So peace that has to be maintained 24/7, it ain't peace. If you're constantly curating your environment, avoiding certain conversations, controlling every interaction, walking away from anything that triggers you, managing people's energy, that's not peace. That's emotional management. It's control disguised as growth. And I get it. You have worked hard to feel safe. But if your peace is always one boundary away from breaking, that's not peace. That's a performance. Real peace can hold tension. Real peace can handle imperfection. Real peace doesn't make you feel like you have to protect it every second of the day. If keeping your peace costs you your range, your voice, your honesty, you didn't find peace. You just found silence. So my question for you is, do you actually have peace, or are you just really good at avoiding what disturbs it?
So the reason I wanted to play that one is because you hear people use this term now. I'm protecting my peace, right? And peace does not mean that everything is going your way and everything is perfect. Peace is having the ability to still have peace in the middle of a storm. Stuff is going on all over you, around you, and you don't look like stuff is going on all around you. Peace is being able to still smile with those that you love, even when other people are causing havoc around some things. And also just being able to understand that things get hard sometimes, and resilience is a must. You have to be able to build up your mental capacity to be able to bounce back. No one's saying that you're not supposed to feel hurt. That doesn't mean you're not supposed to cry. You're not supposed to maybe take a break, right? You may say, okay, you know what? Right now, I don't know how to deal with this right now, maybe because other stuff is on me. But know that that has to be addressed, and you have to create something in yourself to say, okay, I'm back now. Let me deal with this. And you should be able to deal with that and still feel peaceful inside. What are your, well, you know, before I ask that, let me go to the chat because there were some comments in here. Big Murph says, we also need to address the therapists who write prescriptions to keep clients and funds coming into their clinic. That is true.
That's true.
Because guess what? There are people who are making money just to do that. There are some therapists where you don't even have to talk to them. They'll say, hey, it costs $150. I'll do that letter for you. Boom, you're done. You got 6 weeks off from work. You got, you know, an excuse to why you're not in school and all of that stuff. And I'm not saying that, you know, because sometimes people can use things to help them with certain things, you know, and I get if you do that once in a while, but if you use that all over through your life, that's not helping you. That's just hindering you. Hey, Bill, how you doing? Welcome in. Thank you for being here. We are talking about mental health and whether it should be protected or whether it's something that should be built upon. Hey, Fats and Tree, how are you? Thank you for being here. Hey, Etta, how are you doing? Thank you for being here. Beautiful. How's it going? Let me see. I'm just looking because I know I saw a Big Murph with a response. I don't want to miss anybody before we get into this conversation because we won't be on long this evening. Resting. How are you guys? We're doing good. We're doing good. Actually just came back from a birthday party. So actually all of us did. And so we're doing good today. All right. So what are your thoughts about the maintaining peace?
Well, see, that it's still a little bit of gray areas out there. Like I said, I deal with the fact that it's 2025. It's 2025, and I'm trying to tell you, the world we live in now, it's a storm every day. Every day it's a storm. But I'm still on that part where I believe you do have to protect yourself. You have to have good mental health. And a lot of people use excuses nowadays because it's more of a topic. A good example of that was a tragic situation happened this past weekend between a McDonald's manager and one of the employees. Now, they were showing, I seen a YouTube video where they were showing the employees' YouTube videos where she was talking about her position and talking about a manager and everything. Now, she felt that she was being personally attacked from the manager. The manager was doing business for the company. So she couldn't accept the fact that it wasn't personal, it was business. So she took it upon herself to eliminate the manager because she felt like the manager was trying to give off bad energy, stop her growth, take something from her. So there are some people that the world has definitely embedded something in them that need to be put on medication or need to be dealt with on a different level. But I'll say to everybody, the main thing is, how do we get to that point? Once we get to that point, how do we get away from that? You know, now myself, had somebody seen that young lady videos, somebody should have been able to tell her, hey, hold up, baby. You might be seeing something that's really not there. The manager is just doing a job. She's not taking a personal attack against you. It's not personal. But she couldn't see it any other way that it was personal. So she took it personal and eliminated her manager, who was a mother in her 40s and had kids at home. And that's what I'm saying. So, yes, I believe you have to protect your mental health. But if you at that point where you do need to seek professional help, then you need to do that as well.
Now, to speak about what you just said, there are people in this world who cannot take constructive criticism.
Yes.
They take it very personally. Now, we're not talking about the people who internalize it to help them make it better. Like, I can tell you, I'm one of those individuals at work where if someone says something about my work or sort of make me feel like maybe I did something or said something that to me or even to them was like, I think you could do it better, this way. I internalize that. I beat myself up about it. But what I do with that is I've learned, because I have capacity, that I take it as criticism and I take that as a learning opportunity. I don't internalize it and say, "Oh, you're wrong," and why are you trying to make me sound bad, like I don't know my job? No, because guess what? I don't care how great you are at what you do with anything. No one's perfect, and someone can always provide you some feedback about improvement. And if you do, you're supposed to take that, thank them for it, and think about, how do I not allow this to happen next time, or how can I do it better? Right? But unfortunately, nowadays it's like I need to hear all positive things. So now you get people, and I'm just using your example, employees who hear feedback during their evaluation. And if they are getting a needs improvement or is something less than stellar, now they want to go complain. Now it's a problem. It's a personal attack. You're retaliating against me because I came in late last week. Look, your eval and your performance is not a one-time thing. I'm pretty sure by the time it becomes an issue, it's been an ongoing thing, and they probably have mentioned it to you previously. So I'm glad you did bring up that example, because there are individuals who don't know how to take constructive criticism.
No.
They feel like you're condemning them. You're telling them they're not good, or they're dumb, they're not smart, or they're not what they think that they are. And that's not necessarily the case. Now, I'm not talking about the assholes of the world who want to say what they want to say to you, and they're not really meaning it for your best. They don't have your best interests at heart. I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about the people who normally do have your best interests at heart, and to say, hey, this is what's going on here. I talked to you about this before. If you don't get this straightened up, I'm gonna have to let you go. You should be able to suck it up and go, you know what? I don't want to lose this job. Let me go. Let me find out what it is I need to do. Let me go get this training, because I need to make sure that I'm on top of things. Otherwise, maybe I just need to go look for a job and not let them fire me, or whatever. Whatever the case is, just accept it. But let me go ahead and turn it over. This time, Alea, I'll turn it over to you, and then Stacy.
I'm not gonna lie, I don't remember what the original question was.
This is an excuse. Hold on, wait a minute. I am so glad. Nope, I am so glad that you did that. You know how I knew when I lost you when you start looking around. Period. So this is an example, people, especially those in the chat as well, those out there watching or in the bushes. This is an example of why nowadays everything has to be quick, short, because the attention span of this new generation is very short.
I mean,
but guess what? But wait a minute. No, wait a minute. But this is the funny part. They want you to get to the point, but when they get to saying something to you, it's every single detail, all about the whole everything. And I'm like, well, can you give me the same consideration? Can you just give me the bullet points? Just come on. Let's just get it going. So now I am so glad that you said that, because now you understand how it feels on the other side of the spectrum.
Okay.
But it wasn't a question. It was, what were your thoughts about this last clip that was played?
Okay, so my thing was
About peace.
I had my thoughts in place, and then the conversation went to constructive criticism. So now I'm thinking of constructive criticism. So now my brain trailed off on that topic. So then my original train, like a thought, is gone. The train left the station. It's no longer here.
It's no longer there?
It's no longer here. I'm gonna have to sit and think for a bit. Can you sit
Okay,
with
well
me?
then I'm gonna turn it over to Stacey, and then I'm gonna look in the comments, and then we're gonna come back to you.
I love it.
Thank
I
you.
love
There we go. Go ahead, Stacey.
I love it. Okay, maybe I'm like Halia. The train left the station a while back, so I'm on to constructive criticism. And I think nowadays people don't. I know for myself, every day that I wake up, I expect to learn something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because I approach life like that, like I accept constructive criticism. It bounces off. Even if it's something negative, I can work with it. And that's just how I live my life, you know? But not everyone is like that. The other thing that I do is when I and it's in every relationship, you focus more on the job, constructive criticism from a boss, you can do this different, or a coworker, you can do this way, whatever. For me, it's a challenge to me.
Oh.
Right? So now I'm going to take that as a challenge to do better. Because now I'm going to prove to you that not only did I do it right the first time, but I'm going to try it your way. I'm going to do it even better this way.
Right.
That's how I live. That's just how I live. So I don't take offense. I like to learn.
Right.
Not many people like to learn. And if you wake up every day thinking it's a new day to learn something. I think the phrase I'm going to use is teachable moments.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And for me, I look for it. Like every day, I promise you, every day that I wake up personally, and my husband can say the same, he's not here now, but I look for teachable moments. So at the end of the day, for me, I don't write anymore, but before I used to journal and stuff, it helped me. And I'd write down a highlight. But I found myself writing down a teachable moment every day. And it helped me, you know? I think if people started looking at teachable moments, whether it's on the job, whether it's in your household or in friendships and stuff, it'll make things a lot easier, right?
Right.
It means a lot of times they might come off. For me, it's the tone that people use. If you're using a certain tone, then my wall is up. But if you're coming to me and you're saying, hey, you could have done this different, or the way you did that, you know, we don't really like that on the job, you know, or the boss doesn't really, I'm a new employee, for example. And the way you talked in the meeting before, we don't really like that, you know, they accepted it, they didn't say anything. But so for next time, you know, I can accept that, right? But if you're coming to me at my cubicle and you're saying, hey, listen, you're a B and my wall is up.
Right. You're not listening to the message then, because really your intentions.
Whoop some ass.
Exactly.
Whoop some ass.
Yeah. So it depends. So for me, it's the tone.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess as the older I get, even with the tone, I don't really react to it.
Right.
I'm like, okay, maybe it's a you thing. And because I'm always on this journey of, you know, checking myself. I say it all the time, like I'm trying to check myself. I'm learning today. I don't write it down anymore because I don't have to write it, because I've written it so many times. Now it's just internal. Like I know, okay, I reflect now rather than write it down. And today, this is what I learned. I look for it every single day. And I think many people don't do that. And I think with society now, going back to the being on the job criticism thing, I think everybody's striving to outdo the other person, right?
Right.
So we're not open to getting the criticism because it means that you're not better than your cube mate.
Right.
And I think that's an issue. Going back to the mental health thing, I think if it's something that's internal that you're not dealing with, you're going to put that out into the world.
Yeah, that's true.
That's it, right?
That's true.
You're going to put that out into the world.
Yes, the manager, the example you gave, the manager, she was on business, she's doing her thing or whatever. But because you have so many things that's unresolved in yourself, everything that your boss said, it's a problem to you, and you're taking it home.
Yes.
When I worked in the office years ago, when I was working every day, one of the things I used to say every day is, I used to end work at 4:30. At 4:30, it was my time.
Mm-hmm.
At 4, so whatever happened throughout the day from 8:30 to 4:30, that's work.
Right.
If after 4:30 I'm still processing what the boss said to me or
Yeah.
the email that I received, then I have a problem. That's just
Right.
how I look at it, right?
Right.
It's a me issue now. Because I can go back and clock in at 8:30 tomorrow and I can deal with it.
Right.
If I'm going back to work tomorrow to resolve an issue from yesterday because I'm still mad, there's something wrong with me.
Right.
Perfect example. Perfect example.
Do you got your thought together, Miss Johnson?
Yes.
Okay, there you go. Go ahead.
The video was about protecting peace. I remember now.
Okay, go ahead.
And I think the specific topic was triggers.
Yeah.
I feel like people should treat triggers similar to how they treat boundaries, like personal boundaries. And usually when it comes to personal boundaries, it's more of like, hey, I prefer if you not do, like, for example, a personal boundary is just like, I don't like physical touch. So like, if you could not touch me without asking me, or if you could not, like, don't put your hand on my shoulder, which a lot of people like to do, or don't like reach out and hug me, because some people just don't, because some of that stuff can be a trigger to people, but it's similar to a boundary in terms of like you doing something to me, and I'll prefer if you not do that thing like to me. And when it comes to protecting like peace and stuff like that, I guess it's still in the same boundary of like area of like boundaries and stuff, but there is to an extent of like how you go about protecting your peace that can actually be more harmful towards your mental health than it can be in terms of like helping. For example, I remember one of my courses, we went over like the types of ways that like people have like mechanisms, so to speak, of like how they address certain issues. And one of the issues that caught my attention was avoidant, which I feel like that's pretty obvious, of like you trying to figure out ways to avoid the problem instead of you actively addressing it. And I know for like a harmful way of like avoiding problems for me would be like, I like to sleep a lot. That's me. Sleeping is my way of avoiding a lot of my issues, because I'm like, if I'm not awake, I don't got to deal with it. So
Question, is that a generational thing? Because my daughter does the same. Her avoidance is sleeping, and she admitted that to me.
Honestly, I think it depends on the person, because I just like to sleep. So I just like to sleep because I have a wild imagination and I like to daydream. But like, I can't do that when I'm awake, because then I'll accidentally be staring at someone like, ooh, or something.
In other words, her brain, I'm assuming that means you're an overthinker. So you're consistently thinking all the time. So sleep is the only way to turn her brain off.
Yeah, my brain cannot be silent. Like, I'm always thinking about something. And I know you feel that sometimes, because I'll be talking to you about something and the conversation will just drift off, and you'll stop me and be like, how did you even get that from the conversation? Like, you'll be talking to me and I'll bring up something else entirely different. You're just like, that had nothing to do with what we were talking about. How did you even get that's me. My brain just goes places, and that's just how it is, which is why I like to keep it on like a set track when I'm trying to think, because then if you drift off, my brain gonna go with it. Okay. And then I'm like, wait, what was I thinking about? Yeah. But sleeping is not a good coping mechanism. Obviously, you cannot avoid your issues because then you're not properly addressing them. And if you avoid them enough, eventually the problem will get too big to the point where now you're stressed out trying to figure out how to address this problem. And it's like, well, if you addressed it when the problem first occurred, it wouldn't have grown up to be this big thing to where now you can't even handle it. So And I think a good example was, you know how it was like during like my treatment and stuff, I was still going through school and I wasn't taking any breaks. There was like that one semester, that one summer in between where it's like I didn't do anything. But after that, it was just back to back school, and classes, to the point where, and this happened literally last year, my anxiety was literally so bad to the point where I was in physical pain. Like, and it would happen, the first time it happened, it was in a fall semester, and it happened the week before finals, to the point where I couldn't even study. Like, when I say physical pain, I mean like I couldn't walk without feeling the urge to pass out. I couldn't eat. I couldn't even drink water without feeling the urge to like throw up. Like, it was bad, to the point where we generally thought it was appendicitis. So mom literally drove up like after work and like took me to first it was urgent care, and then it was to emergency room, only for them to look me dead in the face and be like, we have no idea what's wrong with you, actually. So we're gonna do.
You didn't want to take that test.
Yeah, we did.
Avoidance.
Yeah, it was no, because it was wishful watching, basically, is what they told me to do. Was like, if it gets worse, come back. But after like a week of me just doing nothing, because I physically could not do like much of anything, because again, I still wasn't eating, I still wasn't drinking. I was trying to take painkillers. Painkillers was not working. I think at one point, I think you brought me a heating, like one of my heating pads or whatever. And I think that wasn't really working too well either. Like, I was just in physical pain, and eventually it went away, and I had to reschedule all my exams, do like makeup exams. But eventually I did them, and I thought everything was fine until the next semester came in the spring. And then it happened again, but this time it actually happened the week of finals. And I was like, okay, what's going on here? What's going on? I felt like, if anything, the next semester, it was worse. Like, I was over here just like groaning in pain, tossing and turning in my bed. I'm like, bro, I can't even study. What's going on? And then it turns out it was because I was just very anxious for finals, because I was really trying to maintain like my straight A's in my courses, because my thing was trying to keep my GPA up. So yeah, you could be like, oh, you were avoiding it, but I was my body was over here just like panicking so much to the point where everything was just freaking out, and like physically, which is why, although I wasn't really understanding why when people would go to doctors and doctors would be like, oh, well, you just got anxiety or something. And I was like, we just like, wow, that's so dismissive. Like, how could they just say that? That's actually a thing. Like, that I thought they were just being, no, that's like an actual thing that like people can do. Like, your anxiety can literally be so bad to the point where you can be in physical pain. And so that's why I ended up taking like 2 semesters off, and I'm fine now. I didn't freak out for any of like my finals, because all my finals were not exams, they're essays last semester.
So this sounds like this would be
Emotional burnout.
a perfect example of when we talked a little earlier about, yes, sometimes you need to step away when you're in an overwhelming or stressful
Emotional
situation. Burnout, right?
Yeah,
anybody
burnout.
can go through burnout, but you'll get people that'll call it a bunch of different things.
Yes.
You know, instead of just calling it what it is. Look, I'm stressed. I'm overwhelmed. Heck, I'm at, one of the top technology schools. Of course, the expectation is high. That's dwelling on you as well. And I have all of these tests that I need. And my thing is, now this part is part of what you put on yourself. I must make an A. Like, person like me, yes, I would love to make an A, but guess what? When I walk down that aisle, and I'm walking down the aisle with someone else, and they stressed themselves out and got that A, and I got my C and my B, and I was able to go through it just fine, unless I'm going into a profession where I have to be precise, I'd rather choose that BC versus that straight A, where it's going to actually take a piece of me with it. You get students who commit suicide because they don't know how to handle their anxiety. They don't know when to step back. They don't know when to say, you know what? I know I wanted an A. Maybe I need to just get an I for incomplete and come back and visit this next semester or within a few weeks and take my test later. And even though I might not get an A because I had to get it that incomplete, but at least I'll get that B and I'll have a peace of mind and I'll be able to do the best that I can. So glad that you brought that up. That was a good example.
Can I just add, Miss Talia, you just gave me great insight. Because my little one went through the same thing, and she's very similar. Like, she needs to get an A. She's settled on getting a B in chemistry or physics. She hates those subjects, right? But she's used to getting her A's, right? And I didn't understand. So you just gave me so much insight. You have no idea. Because when she talked to me about being so tired, like, she wasn't saying she was having physical pain. What she was saying is she was so tired doing, I think it was leading up to exams, right? And then during exams, she said she had this headache and stuff. And I was very dismissive. And I said, you're full of it. You just got to do what you have to do, right? And I think had I had a conversation like this, I could have better dealt with the issue, been more supportive. So I pretty much just told her to get over it, like, drink some water, go to sleep, study, and get them A's, right? But I guess you just gave me so much insight. Like, I'm gonna apologize to her as soon as she gets in here tonight. Her dad would take her, but I guess it happens, and she was under so much stress too. And what she did this last year at school, I don't know if you're open to that, Halia. What she did this last year was she found a counselor on campus, and something that she and I and my husband too, we've been working on identifying a need for mental health evaluations and intervention. So she has a counselor, and rather than talk to me where I'm not any help because I'm old school, I'm like, okay, get over it. You know, you can do it. You know, you're there. I don't have the money. You're on a scholarship. If your GPA drops, like, you can't go back. I don't have the money, right? That's where I'm at. But she's talking to a counselor, and the counselor has been really, really helpful to her. She tells me, she's, I get to talk about everything. I talk about you too. And I'm like, you talk about me? Well, what am I doing? Right? But I think, like, and I've been telling her friends too, like, if you have a counselor at school and they have them on campus now, I guess each campus, they're really reaching out to the kids with their mental health. And it's really helped her this year. So what she first went through that first year, that physical, like, she wasn't saying she was in pain, but she was getting the headaches. And she was just overtired, and she just kept saying she was sleeping. And she'd wake up in the morning, and I'd check in, and she'd say, "Well, I just woke up, but I'm just so tired, Mom." And then she was just sleeping, and I was like, "Well, you need to get to these exams. You need to get to study. You need to get these assignments done." So thank you very, very much. And I have like a big apology. Like, I'm gonna have to apologize to baby girl when she gets it tonight.
Well, I can tell, and that's something else that us as parents who grew up in a generation where it was like, suck it up, right? So you sort of develop that mental capacity, right? To just sort of, you don't complain, and that, I guess that's why they always say, like, the Generation Xers, we don't look like what we've been through. No. Because we weren't allowed to let our circumstances define us.
Right.
It was, you work through it, you get over it, you do what you need to do. And guess what? We did. However, does that leave, like what they call it now, trauma is that's the word.
Right.
Right. Trauma.
Yeah.
I don't think it's trauma. I think it's because you've been so conditioned to just deal with issues that when issues come up that you really should be talking to someone about or whatever, or an issue where you really shouldn't be dealing with, right? But because you're conditioned to just take it on the chin and keep it moving, you just still do it, and then it starts to cause issues, right? And then that's when the issues come, and then you're yelling at other people, or little things trigger you, and now they're saying one thing and you think they saying they mean something different. In reality, it's like, no, that's the way you're perceiving it because that's how you're feeling about what's being said. It's a you thing.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So that's why when I hear therapists say you need to do self-work first,
Right.
that means you need to identify why you act a certain way when certain things happen. Why do you feel that way? And ask yourself why 5 or 6 times until you can't answer the why anymore. Like, oh, I get so mad when uh the area in the house is just always cluttered. Okay, well, why?
Why?
Because it needs to be straightened up. Well, why?
I can
Because
tell you. I
straightened
can
up.
tell you why. I can tell you why, because, and it goes all the way back to what you first
Yep.
started with our experiences. Because growing up for me in a cluttered environment, with growing up with my grandma, when she came home from work and there was a clutter, I got a whooping.
Right.
No, seriously. So I
Right.
think it just carried on to my everyday life now. So for me, it bothers me because I think, going back to what Halia said too, right? Anxiety. I swear I get this anxiety. Like, just I look at it and I get so anxious. Like, well, why is it cluttered? I don't need this, and I need to get rid of the clutter now. Not
Right.
knowing, and it's because I read as much as I do now that
Right.
I understand why I react to certain things the way that I do. So that
Right.
thing I can identify with that clutter thing. It bothers me so much because in my childhood, clutter was a big deal, and clutter caused me to
Right.
get whoopings.
Let's see what the chat says.
Yeah. Let's see what the chat say. There's some things here. Okay, so House of X says Wanston old. He had okay, so I'm assuming he's saying Wanston at his old job he had to work with people with mental health and it was not easy. I'm pretty sure it was not.
And that I
Definitely.
can agree with because, and I do want to bring up an example that someone made of when we had some graduate students that came to like talk with us about entering grad school and stuff. One of them literally worked with like the suicide hotline and stuff like that. And he would talk about how stressful it was because he'd be like going to sleep every day, just being like, oh, like just waiting for like a call, and how stressful it will be in terms of like having people that like that weight of like having people depending on you like that. It's really not an easy thing to work with like people with certain mental health issues, especially if it's like on the more serious side, and how much that can like weigh down on you to the point where they literally tell like therapists like, hey, get your own therapist. Like you're going to, that stuff is going to weigh down on you mentally over time. Like you need to talk with someone like just as much as they do. So
yeah, agreed. Sledging says, I was in management for a very long time before I switched careers. Most people take constructive criticism well, but there are people of all ages that don't as well, but that is a much smaller group. Yes, that is true. Some people don't know, but then also some people don't know how to give constructive criticism either. That's another thing, which actually goes back to what Stacy stated, was sometimes how you say things, the message comes across a little differently.
Mm-hmm.
Sludge Inc. team, people managing is definitely not a walk in the park. It definitely is not at all. For my own mental health, Sledge Inc. says, I left a job after 25 years and took off a year to travel and spend time with family. Best decision that I ever made. See, sometimes you just have to
live that best life.
And not only that though, Sledge, also think about this though, because what you just said, that you left a job after 25 years, took a year off to travel and spend time with family. Best decision that you ever made. I want you to think about the people who don't have that luxury, right? So and I say this because 50 Cent said this he was on an interview. He said, when he was trying to make it out there and he was doing things, and trying to make sure that him and his family and his friends ate, basically, he would have something like, one of the guys would be like, oh, I'm tired, I'm gonna go lay down. I don't have time to do this. And he was like, what you mean you don't have time to do this? He's like, oh, I just feel like, I think I'm depressed. I don't really feel like it. He said depression to him is a luxury because there are people in this world who have the luxury and the ability and the resources and the support structure to be able to step away from whatever it is that's causing them stuff, to step away and regroup and come back. There are people here that don't have that in this world. And when they can't afford to do that, that's when you start seeing people shooting people. They're fighting. They're very angry all the time. They don't know how to take what you say to them because they're stressed because they can't afford to retreat, to just go woosah.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Okay, I'm regrouped. Let me come back. Okay, I'm energized. I'm ready to face this head on now. They don't have that ability. They don't have that luxury to do that. And when you don't have the ability to do that, that's when people become dangerous. They become suicidal, and they begin to do those types of things. So Sledge, yeah, you had the ability and the resources, I'm sure, to do that. There are some people who don't at all. Yes, go ahead, Helena.
And I feel like with over time, with mental health being more promoted, eventually more like insurance companies will be more accepting. But I did want to point this out in terms of, because you mentioned how it is like a luxury to be able to, be able to do certain things involving mental health. And I remember this from like a video I watched like a couple years ago of like this psychologist, and hopefully it's different now, but she was talking about how it's like a lot of people don't go to mental health like for therapy or for a psychologist or whatever because it's expensive. And although they want to rely on their insurance like refuses to cover it, or their insurance just, like will probably only cover like a small portion, but it won't cover a lot. Like it'll just be completely neglected, to the point where this therapist was like, oh, I'm going to go out my way to get like insurance qualifications. So that way people with that insurance can come see me or whatever. She was in back and forth emails with that company for like over a year. They were keep on telling her like, oh yeah, we're going to review your application and da-da-da-da. Nothing. Like they're purposely stalling because in retrospect, insurance companies, if they knew that if they were like going to accept like, oh yeah, you go into a therapist or whatever, like you can come to us and like use your insurance, that would be a lot more people trying to utilize that. And insurance companies, they barely utilize it when people need their insurance. So like imagine with mental health, they're definitely going to be like, no, you got it. And it's like, oh. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go ahead, Stacey.
One success that the National Labor Relations Board had a few years ago was they were able to mainstream to many jobs to have an EAP program, right? The Employee Assistance Program, where rather than having to go through that process through the insurance and all that stuff, it became, and not many people know this, and I think many jobs need to promote it more and let their employees know that this is available to them. It's an EAP program. It's a set number according to the job that you have, set number of times that you can actually go speak to someone about issues on the job. Yeah, you might have issues at home and stuff like that. But if you are having issues on the job, it starts there. You're having issues on the job. So you can contact your human resources representative, or your boss will put you onto someone, and you get into that program. It's a start, right? But they were able to have that success many years ago. So many jobs, I'm not sure the number of states, but many jobs now have that set up where people have the EAP outside of insurance. So you might not have your regular medical insurance or your doctor and stuff like that, but the job itself has EAP, where you can go to a counselor and speak to a counselor about issues. And it does start with identifying that, you're struggling on the job. Yeah. But normally when you're struggling on the job, it's going to take effect. It's going to affect everything that's happening at home too in your personal life. So
Right.
that's one way to talk to somebody, rather than just waiting for the insurance company to approve you, because a lot of times it takes forever to get in. So right now,
Yeah.
if somebody's listening, check with your job. They may have a program set up. It's called EAP, Employee Assistance Program, and the National Labor Relations Board was able to have that success many years ago. So check into if you're having any issues.
All right, y'all. Y'all heard it from Stacy. If
I noticed
y'all didn't know,
when I was like looking at jobs and stuff, and I was just like, oh, they actually have like a mental health thing. And with some jobs, it's like a result of like a union that they had, and like the union advocated for it. So then now they have that program, like stuff like that. But yeah, there are some jobs, and it'll be like listed on your benefit under your benefits, where it's just like, yeah, you can go and talk to somebody like with our insurance or whatnot.
okay. All right. Etta says, Sledge, self-care is priceless. Yes, it is. Got to take care of yourself. Mickey says, that is exactly how I felt in school. So same way you felt in school, Halea, Mickey felt in school.
It said T. I think it's addressed to you.
Yeah, but it said T because it's the show, but it's you. Because you were the one that brought it up. Etta says, sleep on it. Yeah, that's what we used to do. Just sleep on it. Just, hey. It's like, it's called grit. That's what they say Generation Xers have is grit, right? We can just, no matter what the problem is, we're going to see it through. And we are not going to look like we just been through some stuff. You're never going to see us sweat, because regardless of what it was, regardless of what you was going through, you never was able to walk out the house to look like there was some problems, because that was telling your business. If you went outside and you was looking like you just got your butt whooped, then you was going to get your butt whooped again when you got back home. So when you go out, wipe them tears, be quiet, and you know why you got your butt whooped, face it, do better next time. But when you walk out this door, you go out there regular, period. But that's exactly. Overthinking is a Virgo trait. I'm so guilty of that. Yes, Etta. Yes, Miss Halea is a Virgo as well. I also overthink sometimes, but not to the point of, it will consume. Like I said, if it's something, there's certain things I take very personal and I'm very prideful about it. But it'll maybe bother me maybe for like a day. And then when I realize some time go by, I'll be like, whatever, get over it, keep it moving, you know? And then if I feel like, well, let me just do it better, then hey, all I look at it now is it was an improvement. I had that feeling because it was an improvement. So I took something bad and said that it was meant for my good, and then turned it around and made it better. You know, not saying that it probably would normally make someone feel bad, but I just took something bad and said, how can I spin this to make it positive? And then I just always look at it that way instead of just saying that it's bad.
Miss Tanya, you know, I look at it, and I really do. You know me, I really do look at life. Tomorrow is another day to do better.
Exactly.
I know it sounds so basic, but I really live like that. Like tomorrow is another day to do better. So today is rough, and this is going on, and then tomorrow I wake up, it's a brand new day. I really live like that.
Yeah. Agreed.
And maybe it's a grit thing that I have to do it. I don't know.
Yeah. Hey,
the next thing, like, okay, we gotta try better. We gotta do better tomorrow. But
it might just be that. It might just be that. Hey, Keisha, how you doing? Welcome for being here. Ooh, okay, y'all. Let's see. We're gonna get down to the chat, and unless someone else has anything else, we are gonna call this a night. Let me see here.
We like to lay in the chat.
Hey, Miss Keisha was in the house saying hello to everybody. Miss Keisha, we are on our way to close this up. But
wait, can I say a final thing?
Yes.
And I guess this is something to just think about, because like it is based off of a theory that, although there have been some studies that kind of help build up the theory. Oh, I'm on the full screen. Why?
Because you want to have
you're
the last word.
You wanted to tell people
right.
something, so I'm giving you the whole screen. Go ahead.
Okay, fine.
Expert.
But there have been some evidence that other people from experiments have gathered to help like build this theory up more of how now, although mental health, it can be genetic, like certain mental disorders can be like given off to a next generation, like genetically. That's the thing that, you know, is scientifically proven. However, I want to bring up the possibility of like how like certain mindsets of how people deal with certain things and how they handle certain things might also like carry on for like a generation. Or like for not even one generation, 2 generations at that. And I remember it because of this article that I had to read for one of my classes. And it was talking about how there's like, they studied 2 groups of people, like one group of people who like were just normal, ordinary people, and the other group of people who are from like, they're from an environment where they survived a famine. And they looked at them genetically in terms of like, and observed their children for over like 2 generations, and they found out that like the way that those people with the famine, like their relationship with food after the fact carried on for like 2 generations in terms of like how they also had that ability of like how they perceived food as well. Like as if they, you know, like, oh, this is our last access to food, even if they're no longer in an environment to where food was scarce because of the famine and stuff like that. So just something to consider in terms of like this like a survival mindset can be carried on if possible, and stuff like that. Of like maybe it's just like, you know, maybe the way that how you perceive certain things or how you act a certain way is like, did I possibly like, I know my mom was similar, like did I possibly like get this from her? Or like if my grandma was similar and it carried on for like 2 generations over, that type of thing. So.
Okay. All right, y'all. She said, take that into consideration. House of X says so true. So, all right. Did you have anything else? Did you want to say anything, sir?
No, I'm going to let it close out on one note that I've always been saying this ever since I've been on the channel. Live your best life and don't be trash.
All right, everybody. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Those of you in the chat and who were in here. If you're in the chat, go on and head over to Saturday Night Live with me and I. They are over there. Go on over to their link, and I'll see you all over there. And you all have a good evening.
Peace.
Bye.
Bye.
This one's from my crew, my inner vibe. Exclusive moments where the spirits collide. You're the ones who ride through thick and thin. Spirit members, let the show begin. Spirit members, this time's for you. VIP love for the chosen few. Let's sip, let's vibe, it's your special space. Spirit members, welcome to the place. Ooh.